for your, benefit in terms of that. Yeah, sure. Definitely. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Awesome. Okay. Thank you. And I saw on the website that you're the pharmacist in charge.
Yes, I'm a pharmacist in charge as well. I'm the owner of the pharmacy. I've been an owner for last 8 years. I've been a member since I believe is November of 2012. That's when I joined the PCCA. But the unique part of me is that I've had relationship with PCCA since I was probably junior in college, because I went down to PCCA to get trained as a pharmacy student. And then I also worked at several other member stores after I graduated. So I'm a little different in terms of how my perspective is, as well as being an owner, and as well as being active within the compounding industry.
And when you, as the owner of the pharmacy now, did you start the pharmacy or did you purchase it from someone else?
Oh, luckily, I bought a pharmacy that is 150 years old.
Wow.
Yeah, it was established back in 1870. And back in 2012, one of the owner was ready to retire. So I actually met with him August of 2012. We shook hands and I bought the store October of 2012.
Wow.
So it only took us about 2 months in terms of negotiation, paperwork, lawyer getting involved, and et cetera. So I was able to buy the pharmacy at that time. So I'm in a very unique situation again because of the longevity and the history of the this is one thing, but also continuation of the actual legacy of the pharmacy and really innovating in a different scope of service in the store has been very, very different. And Stephen, did I lose you?
And now I'm here. Can you hear me?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I could hear you. It just went silence. I'm like, did I lose him? Do I have to repeat it again?
So you mentioned going to PCCA when you were in college for training. Do you remember if you can recall, can you tell me about when you first learned about compounding as part of the pharmaceutical trade?
Actually, I didn't know anything about the pharmaceutical trade whatsoever. I got into pharmacy as a necessity to make some money during the summer. And I knew, as long story short, one of my best friend's ex-girlfriend's father used to own a pharmacy. Actually still owns a pharmacy, excuse me. And he was gracious enough to take me along as basically a stock boy, and then became a pharmacy technician. So I basically worked from the back and into the front of the pharmacy. And that was summer of 2001. And at that point in time, one thing he said was he did something called compounding. I didn't know what that meant. And he explained to me, and it just sounded so cool at that moment and so unique that I needed to go and learn from this guy what that is, because it wasn't just about counting pills, but he said he was actually able to make things customized to the patient's needs. And that word customized really resonated for me. And so I didn't care what it took. I was willing to drive 40 minutes from my house to work for him at minimal wage just to learn what this was, even though I was not even in pharmacy school, nor did I have anything in terms of interest in doing that. But after going to him, learning about what compounding was, what pharmacy was, and as well as what pharmacy ownership was, that's when light bulbs went through my head and I decided to transition to pharmacy at that moment.
And when you first learned about PCCA, was it at the training when you first went there?
No, I actually learned about PCCA was because of my previous boss that I worked under. He actually really sold me on sold me on who and what PCCA is, what they brought to the compounders in terms of their profession, their training, resources, chemicals, and everything else, that I knew that this was a place that I had to go and get trained, or at least learn about them. And so that's how I learned about PCCA. That's basically my, year that I was going into sophomore in college. And after going there, after working there, working at this particular pharmacy, I soon found out that there was a PCCA boot camp for pharmacy students, and I knew that I had to one day to go there and get trained. So in my fourth year of pharmacy school, three of my friends and I went down to PCCA down in Houston, Texas. Obviously, we barely had any money, bought a plane ticket and went down there and got one hotel room and with four of us inside, so I could go and learn about what compounding was. And I actually was fully immersed in the compounding training for 18 hours and learned about what, compounding was, how it actually helped, proper ways of, making and compounding certain dosage forms, and as well as really set in stone in terms of who I want to become later on. Unfortunately, three of my friends who came there with me did not have any interest with compounding whatsoever. They thought it was very stupid. But when I actually took the course, I thought it was the best thing that ever happened. So that's really a difference in terms of my interests, and as well as that allow me to get a connection made with some of the staff members of PCCA, which I had a fortunate thing to do my externship in my 6th year of pharmacy school. And I worked under Renee Prescott, and I worked there, during the summer of 2005. And that's when Hurricane Sandy went through New Orleans, and it was a very interesting moment of Houston, Texas, where all the refugees ended up having to be there from New Orleans. But that was one of the key points that I ended up having to be really cherishing of the moments that I was able to work at PCCA for 5 weeks. They allowed me to work at 2 other member stores at that moment. Met with a lot of the, now the leadership of PCCA, and as well as allowing me to have a different point of view and an aspect of, how I could grow myself as a compounder, rather than a, regular staff pharmacist, and really gave me a headwind in terms of becoming an owner, later part of my career.
Great. I'm interested here because you've got a long history with compounding. How has the industry changed specifically around compounding since you first got started?
I think the compounding in general actually have evolved quite a bit. We are much more in an aspect of quality assurance, in aspect of proper pharmaceutical techniques, as well as allowing us to really looking at the quality aspect of chemicals, the pedigree of it, as well as allowing us now to really tapping into the different testing modalities of compounding, different dosage forms, as well as advancement in compounding basis, as well as certain sciences, and as well as therapeutics that are available for us to utilize, and really be the innovators within the pharmacy industry. And so it gave us a different ways of taking care of our patient in a, again, customized way to bring a better solution to the table, and working in a triad relationship better than before, and working with doctors and patients and pharmacists. and with different